On behalf of President Hubert Graves, welcome to the annual meeting of Centreville Immigration Forum. We're very regretful that Hubert cannot be with us tonight. He is recovering from surgery and we all miss him greatly, and you'll hear a little more from him later on. My name is Alice Foltz and I'm a former board president who agreed to come back as interim vice president at this time while Hubert is out. And our vice president, Carol Robinson, is serving as interim executive director while we are searching for an executive director. So that's a little explanation of why I am here tonight. Please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen to post your questions about what is going on, and we will try to get to those later during the evening or at some other time if we don't have time to get to all of them. But we hope that you will enjoy hearing about things that we have been doing and things that we plan to do in the year ahead. The first thing on our program for tonight is an invocation, and that will be done by members of the Directiva. The Directiva are the leaders of our board, leaders of the Asamblea, and they have been selected by the Asamblea, the total members of the Labor Resource Center. They've been selected by them to serve as leaders on the board of directors. And so we're very happy tonight that they're going to lead an invocation for us. And John, our center organizer, will explain this.
Thank you very much to each one of you for being present today in our meeting, the annual meeting. An annual meeting different because we're doing it through the computer, which normally we do this in person. So thank you very much for being with us, celebrating this event. And as I just mentioned, Miss Alice, we're going to be doing the invocation, and our leader, the communicator, is going to do the invocation. Is something that we do in different cultural traditions, recognizing the earth that we're stepping on, recognizing the people that were originally to their territory. And we're asking them permission to be here, recognizing our ancestors. With this, I want to have my co-leader that's going to do the invocation. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to share this meeting that's very different, but we're united for one cause, one fight. Today, as our culture in our days is the seventh show, that means the 7 offerings or 7 days of the offering. It's a sacred day for us that represents the justice. It represents a new awakening, a new dawn, and it represents our offering. Also, payment that we give for the gifts and the gift of life. Today, we honor our grandparents, Mayans and Chileans, and our original peoples, our parents that we inherited. They gave us this inheritance. I want to invocate a part in my language and another part in Spanish. Honoring our grandparents, I do this invocation. Please close your eyes and thank our Creator. Heart of the heavens, heart of the earth, that formed us and created us, and you left the nature to take care of us. Today, we honor our grandparents. We honor the heritage that left us. And now we ask permission to be working in this sacred earth, the earth of our brothers, of the original peoples that belong in this earth. And we honor our grandparents, and our days and our energy guide us forever. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Alice, if you can turn your microphone and camera on, there we go.
Thank you, Geronimo, for your invocation and for this blessing to the space that we use tonight to have our annual meeting. The purposes for the annual meeting you see on the screen in front of you. We are required by the bylaws to hold a meeting during the last quarter of each calendar year. And the primary purpose of this meeting is to accept nominations for new board members. We will be doing that soon. The second purpose of this meeting tonight is to talk about and celebrate the highlights of 2020 and to prepare for 2021. Next slide. We're going to now introduce the members of who are nominated to serve on the board of directors, and you see their names and photographs in front of you. According to our bylaws, Article 4, the board of directors will consist of 16 or up to 16 voting members, and at the annual meeting, the expired terms will be filled by new nominees or by directors who qualify to renew their positions. Some of those on this slate of nominees are returning for a second term, and we thank them for their continued commitment to CIF. Some of the nominees are new, and we appreciate their willingness to provide new leadership for our organization. Both new and continuing members are very valuable. The Governance Committee and the Directiva present for approval by those in attendance tonight the following slate of nominees for the CIF Board of Directors. Claudia Alvarez, returning for another term. Brian Perez Brito, returning for another term. Laureano Tomas Bernal Brito, returning for another term. Tomas Geronimo Maton Ramirez, returning for another term. Antonio Cobo Raimundo, beginning a new term as CIF board member. Lisa Shea, returning for another term. And Pedro Raimundo Velasco, a new board member nominated this year. So thank you to all these nominees. And you will soon see on your screen a way to vote for members of the board of directors. And we ask you to take this quick poll as a way of voting for these new nominees. We have seven nominees for board of directors here.
To approve, you can respond.
So we're just going to give everybody about 20 seconds to please respond to the poll that should have popped up on your screen. If you could go ahead and vote now, everyone who's attending the meeting is eligible to vote.
We briefly met Geronimo Maton Ramirez during the invocation, and we are going to hear from Geronimo and other members of the Directiva for a few minutes to share with us some of their report. They are leaders, as I said before, they are leaders of the Asamblea and leaders of the community. And their responsibility as selected leaders of the Asamblea, their responsibility is to encourage, organize, and advocate for all of the members. of the Asamblea.
Alice, I'm not sure if you're seeing the results on the screen, but I am sharing the results of the voting.
Yes, I see that we have 100% selection for the slate of officers. So thank you very much. And all of the members as proposed will become members at this moment of the Board of Directors. Thank you.
Close.
Okay, the next part of our meeting then is hearing from the members of the Directiva.
John?
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity again. We're happy today because we have 2 new members. Being in the board is one of the successes we've had to be involved, and we're waiting for the participation of more people in the community so we can work together. To me, this is a team effort that we're done with Joe and this partners, Claudia, with Pedro, our 2 peers that are, we're gonna work for the benefit of the community. We also made a connection with our community at this time. It's been very difficult because of COVID. We've taken a lot of precautions, but our participation is constant. One of the advances we've made, the preparation that John helped us how to use Zoom. To me, I just started using Zoom when COVID started, and he has taught us as a Directiva how to connect. That's one of the advances we've made with the Directiva and the community. We didn't know how to use it, but we're using it now, and we want to progress. Thank you as well for, we've brought meals to our community when they don't have anything to eat. We were able to volunteer our time to help the community, and the gestions we needed to do, the calls. Also, we shared with the community with the interpretation of Chi, or Spanish to Chile or Chile to Spanish. Some advances we've made, and we believe to have those advances with you all. Always have the participation of the community. We don't want to impose plans on the committee. We want to consult these plans with the community. We have our form, our way to teach, but we're willing to work. And those are the advances we've done as a team. And we would like to accomplish a lot more with everyone here present, and the ones who are going to join us, and the ones we expect to join us today. We know this is a work in common of everyone here. Thank you, everyone, for the answers of the community.
Thank you, Geronimo. And we will now move in our annual meeting to report from the highlights of 2020 and preparing for 2021. Carol Robinson, our interim executive director, will introduce this part of the program. Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome. Thank you, Alice. If I were to describe this year, it would be one of change, challenge, and COVID. As you hear from the next presentations by our staff members and lead volunteers, Centreville Immigration Forum has continued its focus on meeting the needs of our community, responding responsibly to COVID restrictions, searching for a new executive director, and preparing for an invigorating and a most hopeful 2021. We will begin our series of presentations with John Cano, our community organizer, who will provide highlights regarding organizing, Centreville Commission for Labor Justice and Wage Theft, and advocacy. Thank you, John.
Yes, thank you, Alice. This has been a different year, living with the pandemic. But at the level of organizing the community, last year, I would like to share what we did last year. We did 14 workshops where more than 144 members of the community were trained in the rights of the employee, the rights if you're in front of immigration, ICE, or police, and your rights, what means the census of 2020. As well as last year, we did a workshop, an interpretation workshop, because together with the community, we identified that there's a large problem, that there's no interpretation in the Mayan languages. And what that means is that our community is limited in having access to the health, education, and services that the schools offer. We, together with our allies of the Liga, Mayan Liga, we had this training to help members of the community to be able to have interpreters in these spaces that even the government hasn't trained interpreters in Mayan languages. We had 7 workshops. Out of those 7 workshops of interpretation, we trained 12. Of those 12, 6 were certified to be interpreters of Mayan languages from Chil to Spanish and from Spanish to Chil. Even more so, we had an initiative to work more with women since our members have expanded. We have a lot more families that have gathered, and also we have identified several problems that women in our community have been facing. It's the lack of access of transportation, lack of classes for English classes, resources to have your own business, and the will, the individual will. And because of this subjects we identified, we're having an organizer that's gonna dedicate herself to work with the women in our community to keep giving them support. And this year's 2020, we keep having more meetings to keep empowering our women in the community. Even more so, we had sessions of knowing your rights virtually to keep practicing social distancing. And we had 3. We're gonna keep doing more. We have reached more than 350 people through social media, training them in their rights as workers. Now, I would like to speak about advocacy, what we've done as an organization in this year. 2019 and this year, 2020, we've been crucial in re-establishing the coalition of Drive Virginia Forward. This coalition was key to pass the driver's licenses in the state of Virginia. We organized a day of where more than 200 people participated in more parts of Virginia. We took the General Assembly to push forward so they can get their driver's licenses. Besides that, we establish forums where we educate the community, the citizens, and the legislators how severe this problem of wages stealing. And last year, as an organization, we introduced props to avoid the wage theft. Along with the senator, we introduced the SB 295. This prop sadly did not pass, but they passed it to continue this year. And that prop would force the employers that they have to share this information, personal information, with their employees. And the reason for this prop that we're working on with Senator Morrison is to avoid that wage theft that they're facing the journals daily. We're still working in that prop, and we'll keep fighting next year. So now I would like to continue. This is what we did as an advocacy this year. And I would like to continue with the subject of wages theft with the wage theft of Centreville Commission. This year, we've received 21 cases of wages, a total of $31,124 that employers have taken from their employees. This is a number that comes mostly from the Centreville. We know that wage theft doesn't only happen here in Centreville. This is at a state level, and we are continuing to educate our members of the community to be prepared to recognize their rights, how employees, regardless of their immigration status, because that day that you worked is a day that should be paid. We want to have a movement where we empower the community so they're not taking their wages so they don't impact the community for this state and for this country. And we're going to continue educating through the social media to be able to combat this problem. Again, we want to thank you for being here with us. And thank you for supporting the Forum of Immigration of Centreville. Thank you very much.
And thank you, John, for your efforts to bring the best for our community. We appreciate the work that you've done. At this time, we're going to move to our Centreville Labor Resource Center and hear from our Labor Resource Manager, Colleen Dowling, and Linnea Ober, who is one of our lead volunteers. And Mary is going to advance the slide. And there are their names. And Colleen, thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Colleen. I'm the Centreville Labor Resource Center Manager. And today I'm going to be sharing a little bit about the stats from the center. So I'll be showing you some graphs and numbers about some different things that the center does. So first, the job distributions. In this pie chart, you see it's divided by different jobs. The grand majority of jobs that go out through the center are landscaping jobs. Those are typically jobs that are done outdoors during the summer, and they require little to no experience, really. The second most popular job would be general labor, which consists of, it could be, just doing demolition or multiple jobs in one, like painting and demo or flooring. But one thing that I want to point out is that house cleaning only takes up 3% of jobs that are going out through the center. and a majority of the house cleaning jobs are done by women. So something that I do want to focus on next year, 2021, is to increase those house cleaning jobs to get more women involved in the center and hopefully get more income for the women in the community. Okay, next slide, Mary. Now this graph is interesting because it's the total wages earned by workers going out in the center. The orange line is 2019 and the blue line is 2019. We were on our way to have a really great year this year, but as you can see in February when COVID happened, we kind of started to see a decline, and then in March and April, we closed for 2 months until May, so you know, we hit zero, but since then we've kind of slowly been increasing. The total amount of wages earned in 2020 is currently $100,975. And I can imagine it would have been much more if we hadn't closed for those 2 months from COVID. Okay, next slide. Here we have referrals and social services. As you can see, emergency assistance has been the most popular referral since COVID has happened. Emergency assistance can include food assistance and rental assistance for members. And then second to that is health. A lot of our members have been referred to health clinics for COVID testing and also just general health appointments. Okay. Next slide, please. So this slide is for new and returning employers. You can look at this graph two ways. One is that we don't have a ton of new employers coming in and most of them are returning employers. However, I think that this is a good thing because most of the employers that do come through the center, it means that they're happy with what we provide, so they come back. And then we also have the steady flow of new employers that come in. So about 1/3 of the employers that come in are new, and then 2/3 are returning. So now I'm gonna have our lead volunteer, Linnea Ober, to present employer satisfaction as she is an employer herself. Thank you.
Thanks, Colleen. Yeah, my first experience with CIF was as an employer with the Labor Center. And one thing that we always really appreciated was a couple days after hiring, we'd get a call from the center, someone asking, how did everything go? And as an organization, we think that being able to get that employer feedback as well as the ease of scheduling jobs, especially now being able to do it over the phone and online on our website. And most importantly, of course, the quality of our members' work is what contributes to this overwhelmingly positive employer satisfaction rating that you can see reflected here in the second chart. It's also why I refer anyone who's looking for handyman or house cleaning or landscaping to start at the center. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mary.
And thank you, Linnea, and thank you, Colleen. And I would like to say a special thank you to Colleen because she is at the center every morning at 6 o'clock. Well, now it's winter, so now it's 7, but even 6 o'clock in order for our workers to be able to get jobs. So special thank you to Colleen. I'd like to introduce Nancy Schultz, who is one of our lead volunteers, and she is going to share highlights regarding our efforts with Accompanimen and how those efforts have had to shift this year. As you know, COVID impacted everything. So Alice, all for you.
Thank you, Carol. As you can see on the slide, we have 20 volunteers right now, and they, before COVID-19, they provided transportation to meet family members arriving at bus stations, to take people to appointments at health clinics, at the health department, or at HealthWorks. Sometimes to help with registration at school, which also is a drive from where we are in Fairfax County, and sometimes to complete paperwork. So sometimes the accompaniment doesn't involve driving, it involves completing paperwork for school registration and assisting the members in knowing how to manage the paperwork and manage the systems to register. Under COVID-19, definitely the referrals, the last category shown there, the last two categories, I guess, shown on the slide are providing transportation to court or check-ins and providing referrals to immigration attorneys. And during COVID, as most of you know, the immigration courts closed. And so the referrals and the transportation that would be needed to go to court almost completely ended. And so that kind of transportation ended. However, we needed more assistance with some other areas. And so other kinds of assistance increased, as you know, and we have needed more volunteers to help respond to requests for emergency assistance. You saw on Colleen's chart that the emergency assistance category grew tremendously, and we needed other kinds of volunteers to help with phone calls and to respond to the requests for assistance. Some of those volunteers helped with completing the paperwork and making the phone calls to qualify for assistance at some of our partners, Western Fairfax Christian Ministries, and to help our members know about other kinds of assistance that's available. Next slide. This shows the big change in accompaniment as we went through the summer. You can see that the early last year in November, December, January, February, and even March, there were a good number of, on the blue bar, of immigration-related accompaniments needed, and a good number of health accompaniments needed during the winter. But then you see how those changed completely as we went into the pandemic, and there were many more health accompaniments and no immigration accompaniments at some time. So quite a change in kinds of accompaniment that we've had. Next slide. And I want to thank all of our volunteers. We've had volunteers who've helped in many different ways, including school registration, help with transportation to get to school registration, and to help our members know about what's available through the schools. And we've had many donors and volunteers who have helped during the summer and fall with various kinds of food assistance that's available through the community. As some of you probably know, there is a great deal of food assistance available, but it has to be organized. And we've had food deliveries, we've had persons getting food assistance from Western Fairfax Christian Ministries, and then we've had various churches that have helped with food assistance, churches and faith communities. So, and as you see, this list is quite varied, but every single one of these represents a lot of people doing a lot of work to fill the need that has occurred during COVID-19. And we're very grateful for all of them, so thank you. Thank you, Carol. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Alice, and thank you for all that you have done. I can't tell how, so many times I've called Alice to ask for advice or check on something, and she's in the car on the way to take someone to do one of these various things, whether it's something with the schools or a medical or to deliver food. So thank you, Alice, for your efforts, and everyone else who has provided support during this very difficult time of this year. So thank you very much. I'd like to now have us focus on our volunteers and interns, and our first person to talk about that is Murray Bradley, lead volunteer, followed by Katia Luna, office administrator.
Thank you very much, Carol. Volunteers are so important to the activities of the Centreville Immigration Forum. So I'd like to give you just a few examples of how they have impacted the work of the forum. First, Linnea Ober first came to us as an employer. She was so impressed with the workers that she decided to become a volunteer. She is now our main data analyzer. And whenever you want something that seems impossible, Linnea already has figured out a way to get it. Colleen Dowling became as a volunteer during her college days. Later, she interned with the center, and she is now a member of our staff, in charge of operating the center, coordinating workers with jobs, and ensuring that employers get excellent service from our workers. She has led the center's efforts to deliver food to the workers and their families during this unusual time of pandemic. Finally, there's Alice Foltz. She has been with us since our very beginning in 2010 and has made so many contributions over the years. Currently, she has many roles. As she serves on our governance committee, she is in charge of our accompaniment program, in charge of and teaches our evening English classes, and has led the current search committee for a new executive director. She is truly an amazing lady. And I'd like to introduce Katya Luna, who will talk to you a little bit about interns. Take it away, Katya.
Good evening. I'm going to speak about the students that are practicing with our organization and also about continuing with the volunteers. This year, we haven't had as many students practicing because of the pandemic, but we had a student post grade of the University of Mason that created a workshop of health and well-being. We also had a group of the Institute in English Leadership for Facts, and they developed a plan of merchandising for the work center. We want to give thanks to all the volunteers that have given so many hours of service to our center, and also to the other programs, all the programs which my coworkers have spoken about that form part of the Forum of Immigration of Centreville. Also, we would like to give a million thanks to our volunteers, our main volunteers that also have spoken, Marie, Linnea, and Alice. We also want to thank all the members of the board for their leadership, especially Rosemary and John Kennedy, whom exhibited their leadership in the anniversary celebration and also in the financing of our orientation. Thank you, everyone, for all your services. This concludes our presentation.
Thank you so much, Katya, for sharing with us, and for Murray, both of you, for making our volunteers feel so welcome. And I know that they would love to hear from anyone who was with us tonight. If you are not one of our volunteers, please contact them or Alice. I know they have a whole list of ways you can help us. So thank you all very much. At this time, we're going to talk about resource development. And I am so impressed with Mary Suppley, who is our Development and Communications Director. She has even earned the title of Zoom Guru. She doesn't know I call her this, but she definitely is our Zoom Guru. So Mary, I'm going to now turn this over to you and let you share with us about new developments, partnerships, foundations, donations. It's all yours.
Thank you, Carol. I am not unfortunately able to turn my video on at the moment, but let me move into the presentation. So although I started working with CIF in January 2019, my role as Development and Communications Director is new for the organization, and that started in June 2020. My responsibilities include developing and implementing a plan to secure funding and in-kind donations for the operations of CIF, as well as strategic multi-channel communications for the organization. As you have heard, of course, throughout the presentation, there have been a lot of things that changed this year, and that includes our annual events. We did not hold our international showcase this spring, and there was no 4th of July soccer tournament because of COVID. We also transformed our annual dinner into a virtual celebration of our 10th anniversary, which took place on October 22nd. And transforming that event took the support of volunteers from the planning committee and staff to make that happen. I'd also like to take this moment to thank Rodrigo Velasquez for serving as our Masters of Ceremony again this year, and our featured speaker, Ivania Castillo. At the celebration this year, we honored La Directiva, Edgar Aranda Llanoc, Dr. Alfuertes, and the International Mayan League for their contributions and service to the community. And in case you weren't able to join us for the event, you can watch the video of the celebration on our Facebook page, and it will soon be on our YouTube channel as well. Another new development for this year was launching our first peer-to-peer fundraising campaign. We did that in conjunction with our anniversary celebration, and the goal of that was to reach out to new donors through our existing supporters. So we thank you to everyone who participated in that campaign. We also worked with the community to respond to the local emergency needs related to the global pandemic. We provided information and resources. We supported our members through referrals to partner organizations, hosted COVID testing, and sought resources so we could provide emergency assistance, including food and financial assistance. One thing that I saw, and I know from talking with colleagues at other nonprofits, both in Fairfax County and Northern Virginia and across the country, the events of this year, both the pandemic and the calls nationwide for racial justice and equity, highlighted the need to work together in support and solidarity. And before I move on to talking about some of our partners, I want to say that I am deeply moved by the efforts and dedication of my colleagues on the staff and our lead volunteers, especially during this difficult time, and their commitment to work with members of La Directiva, the board, partners, and elected officials to identify and respond to the challenges facing the community. Thank you for what you do every day. So some of our other partnerships, I want to highlight some of the nonprofits that we work with and have worked with this year, in particular, the International Mayan League, WFCM, HealthWorks, NACASEC, which is the National Korean American Service and Education Consortium, the Virginia Coalition for Immigrant Rights, Drive Virginia Forward, Endelon, which is the National Day Labor Organizing Network, Bacalao, the Virginia Coalition of Latino Organizations, CASA, Legal Aid Justice Center, Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy, Cornerstones, Catalog for Philanthropy, and New Virginia Majority. We've worked with these organizations on a wide range of projects, some of which you have heard about from my colleagues earlier in the meeting related to our emergency response. Also some of the organizing that we do and programs through the Labor Center and through our advocacy. We also undertook mutual aid and community support in a different way this year related to the pandemic. And I'd like to thank several organizations for their participation with us, working together, Showing Up for Racial Justice of Northern Virginia, Herndon, Reston, Indivisible, La Colectiva, numerous faith communities, BB&T, individual donors and volunteers, and local and state agencies and officials came together to provide support in a different way in response to this emergency. As with government, we've seen from some of our foundation partners that they are providing additional resources, support, and opportunities to collaborate. And so I wanted to highlight the K. Fritz Foundation, Consumer Health Foundation, and the Community Foundation of Northern Virginia. I'd also like to spotlight a few additional foundations that have provided us with strategic support this year. The Meyer Foundation expanded their support of CIF this past year. In addition to the multi-year general operating support grant, Meyer Foundation provided us an organizational effectiveness grant to provide training and support for staff transitions, and an unrestricted grant to help us address unexpected expenses and revenue loss related to the pandemic. On a different note, CIF was selected as one of 12 grant recipients out of about 470 applicants for the Opportunity Challenge. This 2-year grant totals $100,000, and in addition to support that we've received from the Consumer Health Foundation, will provide us the funding to launch the Women's Empowerment Project that John spoke about a few minutes ago. And we will be working with women in the community to surface and address unmet needs. Just wanted to provide you with a quick snapshot of the donations that we've received this year from January to October. In addition to what you see here, we anticipate receiving at least one additional grant this year, and we will be launching our annual year-end giving campaign after Thanksgiving. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the sponsors of the 10th anniversary celebration. The revenue from the anniversary celebration was similar to what was originally budgeted for both the International Showcase and the annual dinner, and the support of our sponsors was definitely key to that. I'd like to take just a quick moment to share how you can help CIF do our work. The first thing I would encourage you all to do is talk about the work that we do with your neighbors, your friends, your colleagues. As Linnea mentioned just a moment ago, whenever she hears one of her neighbors asking where they can find help for yard work or for moving or painting or so many other projects, she thinks about referring them to us. Please share information about the center, but also about the other work that we do in organizing, advocacy, and education. Your help can help us to expand our network of supporters. One way that you can do that is to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. It's a great way to keep up with what we're doing. We will also be collecting holiday food and gifts to distribute to our members. So please watch your email for information about how to sign up for that if you'd like to participate. And of course, if you would like to make a financial contribution, you can text CIF10 to 44321. And now I am going to turn it back to Carol. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And we could not do it with all of this support that you're giving us. So thank you for those special efforts that you do. And she just amazes me every time. So thank you very much, Mary. So at this time, we're going to just take a few minutes to look at what we're doing to prepare for 2021. And we've been working on the budget and realizing that we had some changes. Again, the COVID has impacted many of our donors. So we're working on our budget a little bit in a different way this year. So at the next slide, you're going to see that at this point, we are budgeting for just a little over $516,000. And as we analyze and predict what we would like to be looking at and having income, you'll notice that foundations provides much of that income. followed by government and individuals. And some people would say that these smaller amounts are not as significant, but they truly are. And gifts in kind are just, we need those. So please, as Mary says, use any of those resources to help us as we go through 2021. And at the next slide, you will see that on the other hand, with the expenditures, we would be looking at dividing that a lot between the Labor Center and organizing and advocacy. And that's the way we hope to be doing it, because we want to be with the community, with the workers, and doing the outreach that we feel is very important to meet our mission and vision of Centreville Immigration Forum. We will be completing this work with the budget and presenting it to the Board of Directors for approval at the December 16 board meeting. We are excitedly looking ahead to 2021. And as you can see in the next slide, that we're looking at some new staff members. We are actively continuing our outreach activities. And we are so looking forward to having our community and supporters back at the center. We miss everybody. Alice, at this time, this completes the presentations by the staff of Centreville Immigration Forum, and we will turn the program back over to you.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Carol. And actually, I haven't spoken since all the staff talked, so thank you, John, Colleen, Linnea, Katya, and Carol. And I'll say a special thank you to Carol, who stepped in as interim executive director. Carol has been a school principal and administrator for a number of years, so she knows a lot about managing, but managing an organization that's going through so many transitions in a time of great community stress. I mean, the wider community stress for the entire community and the economy. Managing during this time has special challenges, and I really appreciate Carol's being willing to step in and do this. She has done it with grace and finesse, and with her enthusiasm and wonderful ability to say thank you to everybody all along the way. So thank you, Carol, for your leadership, especially during this time and beyond. Since we have a few minutes, I wonder if we have any questions in the Q&A box. And I think John was monitoring this. John, do you have any questions you'd like to talk to us about?
You can't access it.
I don't think I can.
We haven't received any questions from the advances, but we're here to answer any question or doubts that you could have. And we're at your service.
This is Mary. I'll just add a quick technical note. If any attendees have questions, you can enter them into the chat or into the Q&A, and we can monitor and respond to those. If you have any questions, please feel free to share those with us now.
I have one question that I thought of during John's presentation about wage theft, and I know the answer, but I would like for John to say it in case there are others here who don't know the answer. But we have wage theft complaints, not from the jobs that go out from the Labor Resource Center. So where do our complaints come from, and why do we not have complaints from jobs that go out from the center?
If you could repeat the question, please.
This is Mary.
I don't know if you heard me. Could you repeat the question, please?
It looks like Alice's microphone is muted, so I'll just repeat the question. What Alice was asking is, what is the source of what issues lead to wage theft claims when people seek employment outside of the center, and why do we not have wage theft claims with people who seek employment through the center?
One of the reasons why we don't have any complaints of wage theft in our center is because the employers, along with the workers, sign a contract that explains very clearly what they're going to do, how many hours they're going to work, and how much they're going to get paid. And the employer and the worker sign recognizing that they're in accord to this. On the contrary, what happens a lot of times, they find a normal job. There's not a written contract, or there's nothing that shows how much the worker's gonna earn. And that's the majority why the theft of salary. This is what we would like to solve with the Prop SB 295 in the Assembly bill. We know that this not only affects the community of immigrants, this also affects all the workers. That's why on our side, it doesn't show cases of wage theft. And if there's any complaints inside of our organization, we immediately speak with the employer and the worker, and we try to solve it knowing that we have the support. We also have a question of Phil Cavell. If the Immigration Forum of Centreville has considered to expand the geographic area other than Centreville.
So I would invite Alice to respond as well, since she has been here all 10 years. But I can say that while most of our services are here in Centreville, we have had families request assistance outside of the Centreville area, reaching into parts of Fairfax, parts of Manassas, Chantilly. And we also have workers a few that come from a little bit further than Centreville, and we do work with them. Alice, anything you want to add? We were in conversation with Herndon and supporting their efforts with a worker center. And that was conversation this past winter, and then COVID came. Alice, anything you want to add to that?
I would say the board considered favorably looking at ways we could support what was going on in Herndon, and that might have led to a close alliance or some other kind of arrangement. We weren't sure how that was going to develop. But because of COVID, as Carol said, everything definitely came to a creeping state, and we were not able to continue those conversations. And I think the project in Herndon has definitely slowed its development. But we know that there are other areas where labor centers are needed. And many times during the last 10 years, folks have come to us and said, well, why don't we have a labor center in Falls Church? Why isn't there a labor center in Annandale? And we have looked at the possibilities in both of those areas and been in conversation with folks there, but for various reasons, sometimes political, that did not work out. But we're, in the meantime, trying to keep our model strong and hope that someday it will be possible to have more labor centers in Fairfax County and in Virginia. There is one labor center, a more informal center than ours, now operating in Arlington and Shirlington, called Seek, and that's in, as I said, in Arlington County. And that's the only other labor center that's somewhat similar to ours. Are there any other questions?
I'm noticing that there isn't any questions, thank you to each of you for sending us those questions. This concludes our part of the question and answers. If you have can think of any other questions, please contact us directly on our social media or our website so we can continue this conversation. Again, thank you very much for being present virtually.
I have one other small question. If I wonder if somebody from the Directiva could explain at least 80% of our members over time come from the Ixil area in Guatemala. I wonder if they could explain what that means. What part of Guatemala is that for people who don't know? And yeah, so where are they from?
Who's answering?
I don't know.
Can I answer that? I can answer that. So the majority of the members of the center are from, including me, we are from a small town in Guatemala called Nevaj, and the full name would be Santa Maria Nevaj del Quiché. And our ethnic group is called Ixil, and our language is also called Ixil. So we have developed this community here in Centreville, mostly of this specific ethnicity. So, and there are other people as well, but the majority of the members of the center are from Ixil ethnicity because of that.
Thank you to all of you who came to hear our reports tonight and to participate in the program. And we appreciate your continuing support for Centreville Immigration Forum in the year ahead. Thank you very much. Good evening.